The question in front of us today, and a somewhat disturbing one, is whether Jews were also involved with the Nazis in the killing and mass murder of their fellow Jews and other prisoners. The answer is yes, there were many Jews who worked with the Nazi regime in the extermination of prisoners and other Jews. Historians have mentioned that these individuals, known as kapos, were themselves prisoners of some sort and helped the Nazis within the camp. Many among them were Jews as well. There is a very interesting account of this in the tragic story of Lucille Green. Through her account, we learn many useful and previously unknown details about the Nazis and the people involved, whether prisoners or Nazis. Lucille, whose mother died and whose younger sister was taken away and later killed, was the only member of her family who survived. Through her, we hear of many horrific events, and the most significant one involves Rumkowski, the leader of the ghetto. Rumkowski was himself a Jew, was assigned as the head of the Jewish Council of Elders, and was one of the figures responsible for many deaths, including those of numerous children and innocent lives. As Lucille informs us, Rumkowski, the leader of ghetto, asked mothers in the ghetto to cooperate and give up their children to the Germans. Lucille quotes him from memory, recalling him saying to the prisoners, "Hand over your children so that the rest of us may live." These children, including Lucille's younger sister, were taken and, as she later found out, were all killed. Lucille started working under Rumkowski along with many other girls her age. At first, she was involved in planning to create new spaces and parks within the ghetto, but soon the project was shut down and Lucille was assigned a new job, filling out applications to be sent to the Germans for coal rations for the upcoming winter. Life in the ghetto had already taught Lucille a hard lesson. She writes, "You really couldn't trust anybody because if I would tell a coworker something, she would use it to her advantage. You had to be very careful. There was a lot of backstabbing, and you can understand why. It was a matter of life and death." While working in various places, including performing hard labor in the kitchens, Lucille eventually wrote about Rumkowski, who was a very unusual kind of supervisor. She mentions that if Rumkowski got angry, he would strike people with his cane. In almost every ghetto established by the Nazis, the Jewish leaders behaved responsibly, but not in Lodz. Rumkowski was known to put people on the deportation list simply because he wanted to get rid of them. He committed even more personal offenses, as Lucille was about to discover. A woman's life might very well have been in danger if she did not consent to Rumkowski's wishes. On many occasions, Rumkowski behaved terribly towards Lucille and was even involved in unquestionable and subversive activities with the prisoners, including her. It is striking how far a person would go to save himself from death, even if it meant causing immense harm, not just to any people, but to his own, the very Jews he was supposed to represent. After a few weeks, the kitchen was shut down and Lucille was sent to a leather factory within the ghetto to sew belts for the German army. She never saw Rumkowski again. All that remained was the damage he had left behind. She later wrote, "I felt disgusted, and I felt angry, and I felt abused." Ironically, in 1944, both Lucille and Rumkowski were among the Jews from Lodz who were transported to Auschwitz when the ghetto was finally liquidated. Rumkowski and his family died in the gas chambers of Birkenau. Lucille is still a young woman at that time, was not selected for immediate death, but for forced labor. She was ultimately saved by the defeat of the Nazis in May 1945. This is a short version of Rumkowski's story. Though it could go on much longer, his life serves as an example, as many Holocaust survivors have written, of how individuals can descend into extreme moral corruption. It shows how fear can drive people to commit unspeakable acts, even against their own people, all in the desperate hope of survival. It was a life not truly worth living, built on the betrayal of others. Although this story has being documented by many writers who have studied the Nazis and the Holocaust, the deeper truth often remains overlooked. For us, the narrative reveals a disturbing reality that some individuals live only to survive, terrified of death, to the point that they are willing to commit any atrocity to avoid death. We see perils in modern times. There are political powers today that, in order to sustain themselves, are willing to do whatever wrong is necessary. There are rulers who ignore the suffering of others, focusing only on maintaining their authority. To do so, they may exploit religion or the influence of foreign nations. But even power that is blind to its own evil will eventually fall, as history has shown us time and again. From this story of betrayal and dishonesty, even within the Jewish tradition, we are reminded of a powerful counterexample. Rabbi Akiva, he was killed after enduring horrific torture, yet he chose to die for a noble cause. In the face of evil, he did not surrender, so it was with many other great individuals throughout history. Death becomes noble when it serves a purpose. And what greater purpose is there than living a life rooted in justice and committed to the good of all? It is not death itself that terrifies such people, but their own corrupted character that causes them to bow to evil. Individuals who act out of selfishness, fear, or betrayal at the expense of others do not truly belong to any faith or moral tradition. They do not share in the values of goodness. People like this exist in every age, often deceiving those around them. And so that was the tragic story of Lucille and of many others whose voices never reached us. Thank you so much for listening, and I hope you have a meaningful and thoughtful day.